From our 22 News Broadcast Center, this is a Decision 2014 special program. Today, a debate with Democratic candidates for the 1st Hampden and Hampshire District Senate seat. And now, here's Laura Hutchinson.
Good afternoon and welcome to a 22 News debate among candidates seeking your vote for the Massachusetts Senate seat for the 1st Hampden, Hampshire district in the September 9th Democratic primary, which, if you can believe it, is less than 2 weeks away. Our participants today are Eric Lesser, Tim Allen, James Chip Harrington, Aaron Saunders, and Tom Lacusa. Gentlemen, thank you all so much for being here today. Do appreciate it. We'll begin today with a 1-minute opening statement from each candidate. The order was predetermined by a drawing. We'll start today with Eric Lesser. Mr. Lesser, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Laura. And I'd like to just begin by issuing condolences and thoughts to the family of Lieutenant Colonel Fontenot. Our prayers are with him and with all the brave men and women of the 104th Fighter Wing. My name is Eric Lesser, and my father started out driving a cab. He ended up treating patients. He taught me that if you keep your head down and work hard, that anything is possible. But today in Western Mass, that promise, that opportunity to work your way into the middle class is breaking down. We can't settle for the old way of doing things. I went to work after college for President Obama, and there I learned firsthand how hard you have to push to get things done. I have a 14-month-old daughter, Rose, who just learned to walk. I want her to grow up in Western Massachusetts just like I did, because it's a great place to grow up. But to keep our people here, we need to grow our economy, and in order to do that, we need new ideas, high-speed rail, high-tech manufacturing. That's what I'll focus on.
Mr. Allen, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Laura. Hi, I'm Tim Allen, and I'm optimistic on Western Massachusetts. I'm optimistic on Western Massachusetts. I started at Liberty Ice and Fuel Company, my grandfather's company, and learned the value of hard work there. I applied those lessons of hard work at Mass Mutual, where I had a 27-year career in leadership. I consistently brought people together to solve problems and achieve results. I then retired early to run 2 education initiatives to increase the performance of Springfield's kids. I then ran for the city council, where I led the charge to reopen libraries and saved hundreds of jobs at Tightflex and Smith & Wesson and Custom Carbide. I also want you to know I'm a reformer. I believe that the political system, people are frustrated with it, with the influence of outside money. There's outside money being seen in this race, and I want to say that I had a pledge early in this campaign to reduce the influence of outside money. I've consistently had a career of achieving results in both the public and private sectors.
And that's time. Thank you, Mr. Allen. Mr. Saunders, your opening remarks, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Laura. And my name's Aaron Saunders. I'm a candidate for state senate, and I'm running because the difference between real results and empty rhetoric and promise is experience. I spent 7 years on the Board of Selectmen in Ludlow and 6 years as Senator Kondaris' chief of staff. And it is clear that if we're going to get anything done for Western Mass, we need a senator who can hit the ground running from day one. I'm the only candidate in the position to do that. State House is a funny place, and take a year to figure out which way is up. And Western Mass cannot afford a senator learning on the job. This is going to be an incredibly important period for Western Massachusetts as we look at the possibility of a casino, the reconstruction of I-91, and a number of other projects for the greater Pioneer Valley. I want to be your senator to hit the ground running on behalf of our communities and our residents. I ask for your vote on September 9th.
Okay. Chip Harrington, you have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. I also want to offer my condolences to the 104 Fighter Wing in Westfield, as my wife and I just dropped our son off the other day, who was leaving for Japan as a member of the United States Air Force. It really hits home to the families of military families, so I offer my condolences to the entire military branch. My name is Chip Harrington, and I'm a candidate for state senate as well, too. I'm a small business owner, a part-time police officer, and a member of the school committee in the town of Ludlow. My wife, Noelle, is a nurse at Bay State. My son, as I mentioned, is in the United States Air Force, and my daughter is a junior at Ludlow High School. I've lived in West Massachusetts my entire life, and I love it here. I want to stay here, and I want to help my community. I've been involved in numerous projects throughout the area. One that I'm so proud of right now is the solar farm on Fuller Street and on Holyoke Street in Ludlow. We have taken that piece of property of 20 acres and saved the town of Ludlow $2.5 million over 20 years. That's the kind of leadership I'll bring, outside the box thinking and representing the people here in Western Massachusetts. So I ask for your support on September 9th.
And Mr. Lacusa, you have 1 minute.
Okay. Well, this is an interesting choice. We have 5 candidates. We have one individual who's an ambitious young lawyer, well, law student, and we have 4 gentlemen who've been invested in this community for quite a long time. 3 of them have worked in the business sector, and one of them teaches about business. And then you have myself, which is I'm a social worker, and I've been a clinical social worker in this area for a long time. And I've worked with families in need. I'm one of 7 children. My wife and I have been married 34 years, and we've raised 4 children of our own in this district. And I've loved Springfield. Springfield is one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Myself, I have to work 2 jobs to keep my family going. And that's not a rarity in this neighborhood, in this community. I talked to a lot of people who do that. And I have worked with veterans, I've worked with people in the military, active duty, I've worked with people in unions, I've worked with families with children of substance abuse or mental health problems. And these are issues the State Senate deals with every day. Please allow me an opportunity to serve you in the State Senate.
Thank you all very much. Now we're going to move on to the question answer portion of today's debate. I'll ask the question. Each candidate will have a chance to answer. They have 1 minute to do so. And the first question goes to Mr. Lesser. Mr. Lesser, how will you vote in November on the Massachusetts casino ballot question? Also, would you support legislation to put the MGM Resorts International Casino back if voters reject casino gambling in November?
Thanks for that question, Laura. I'll be very, very clear on my position on this issue. I will vote no on the repeal question in November, and it's confusing how that's worded. That means I support keeping the MGM casino process moving forward, and I support it for this reason. I don't think it's fair to give Eastern Massachusetts veto power over decisions that have already been made here in Western Massachusetts. 85% of the population is located in the Boston area. If we open this up to a referendum, we set a dangerous precedent that people in Eastern Massachusetts have veto power over local decisions already made in Springfield. I want to make a larger point on this also, which is I think that the casino can only be one part of a much broader economic development plan we need. And that's what I'm committed to, those big ideas that we need to get our economy moving, high-speed rail, high-tech manufacturing, improving our job training programs. That's what I'll be focused on.
Thank you. Mr. Allen, same question.
Hi, thanks, Laura. I was on the City Council subcommittee on the casino. I heard all the testimony every which way on the casino and ultimately voted for the casino, going along with the mayor's recommendation for MGM. I will vote the same way in November. I will vote for the casino, which means voting no, but I will be voting for the casino. I see the jobs and the economic benefits of the casino for Springfield and the region to be too much to ignore. However, I also have an economic development plan on my website, and it includes early education for all. It includes precision manufacturing, healthcare, and other such things that will need to go along with the casino to improve our economic development in Springfield and in Western Mass. The casino, if it passes, if it survives, will not be a solution. It will be part of a solution for a better economic future for Springfield and Western Mass.
Mr. Harrington, same question.
Thank you very much. I also will be supporting the casino in Springfield, so I'll be voting no to support that. But the greater question right now is specifically, if this does get voted down by the voters, the statewide referendum in November, what will I do? I will uphold democracy. I will uphold what the people and the voters of the state of Massachusetts decide to do. I know some gubernatorial candidates have talked about allowing this to go forward just for Springfield. I think if the people go to the polls and they vote no, then that's it. Then we need to come up with another plan. The casino legislation, I feel, was flawed right from the get-go. 3 casinos in Massachusetts is oversaturation. Considering the fact that we have Connecticut just below us with two casinos that are struggling, New York State and New Hampshire are looking as well too. It's oversaturation. If one casino were put into the state, that's one thing to consider. But I'm concerned about the oversaturation of the market. But the overall question is, what do? You support democracy. If the people of Massachusetts speak against the casino referendum, then that's it. We move on to something else. Thank you.
Mr. Saunders, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Laura. So I support the casino. the MGM proposal, the $50 million a year in local vendor spending, the thousands of jobs, both building the casino and permanent jobs thereafter, is a step in the right direction for the Pioneer Valley as far as jobs go. It's a piece of a larger economic development strategy that doesn't begin with a new state senator. It's ongoing. If you're here, if you've lived in Western Mass and you've followed the progress of the city of Springfield in Western Massachusetts since the tornado, you see the steps moving in the right direction with economic development. You see the new schools being built. It may be new if you're new to the area, but for those of us who have lived and worked here, we know that Springfield is moving in the right direction. May not be moving as fast as we want, but the casino will be another step towards that.
Mr. Lacusa.
Yes, I will vote with the voters to support a casino, as Springfield's done. I worked with Governor Patrick's campaign, and I know this was not an easy decision for him to make. He was under a lot of pressure to add casinos to the state, and he was very particular about what he would sign and what he wouldn't sign. And I think he did a good job, and all the players were involved. We went through a pretty fair process, and for the rug to be pulled out from under casinos at this point in time is something I just don't agree with. Springfield needs something to boost its economy, and the casino seems like a great idea for doing that. We've heard a lot of things about exciting things in the future, train stations opening and rapid transit and everything. Those things will all fall in place when casinos fall in place. So, that is my stance.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We'll move on to question number 2, and this goes to Mr. Allen first. Mr. Allen, would you take a no new taxes pledge? And if not, what type of tax increases would you support?
I don't have any particular tax increases that I'm ready to support, but I would not take a pledge of no new taxes. In my world at Mass Mutual, in my world on the City Council, you need the concept of being able to review your budgets every year and look at things change significantly. We've seen things change significantly in the economy with the tornado in Springfield, with the business cycle, people going up and down. We need the process of annual review of any budget that we pass. A no new taxes pledge would be a nice pledge to take, but maybe it may not be responsible in terms of really understanding what the future will bring in terms of financial requirements. Fiscal oversight is something I've done consistently. Hundreds of millions of dollars in my budgets at Mass Mutual, hundreds of millions of dollars in the City of Springfield budget. I know that you need annual review, and I will use my experience to do that correctly.
Mr. Harrington, same question.
A no new taxes pledge is always difficult for any politician to stand up and say. It's very easy as a candidate to stand here and say, sure, I'm a no new taxes guy. But the reality is, when you get there, you need to reevaluate everything. My overarching question right now is, how do we spend the money that we're currently taxing everybody in the state of Massachusetts more efficiently and prioritizing the budget? Just like in the city of Springfield, that's dealing with a lot of public safety issues and drugs and violent crime. The budget needs to be prioritized so that you're putting the funds into the programs that are going to be most effective throughout the entire Commonwealth. I'm a small business owner. I have to reevaluate my business on a monthly basis to make sure that I can pay the bills and pay my employees and continue offering a service that I provide. So it does require you have to make decisions on the move. So a no new taxes pledge is difficult for any politician to make a stand on. But as a small business owner, I am much more cognizant of our tax base because it affects me on a regular basis as a homeowner and as a business owner.
Mr. Saunders.
I'm opposed to gimmicks, and a pledge like that is a gimmick. And I can say that with some authority being a selectman, because every year that Washington says we didn't raise your taxes, or Boston says we didn't raise your taxes, there are increased costs for cities and towns, and homeowners pay that through their property tax. And it's unacceptable. We need to place a focus on local funding to meet the demands of public safety, of education. We have needs that are dire throughout Western Mass that need to be addressed by putting our money to where it needs to be. We don't need a train from Boston. We need to fund our police, our fire. We need to fund our schools to make sure that every child has a shot at a decent education. And that comes down to priorities. And for me, my priority is Western Mass.
And Mr. Lacusa.
Well, we are getting hammered with taxes. I have families, all kinds of fees are going up. And so I really struggle with this. Now, of course, when I look at some of the plans I want to do, it's going to involve some money. But I also look at prevention as a big way to save tax money. You know, in the field I work in, you know, if people have a problem with mental health, the least expensive way to deal with their mental health problem, their problem with violence, and their problem with substance abuse is in the community. Putting them in jail costs $70 a day. And so I'm going to look for ways to save money by preventing problems that are going to cost us more money down the road. We just passed a bill on domestic violence, and it's going to increase the number of men who go to jail for longer periods of time. Now, there are some men who deserve to be in jail a long time for that, but it costs us money, and that's not a tax, but it's a very expensive proposition for the state. So I'm about being fiscally conservative and trying to prevent the cost of services.
Okay, and Mr. Lesser.
Thank you, Laura. I'll be very clear on this issue. I am against such a pledge. I don't think it's responsible. My one of my top priorities in the state Senate is going to be to restore a sense of balance to our tax structure. Middle-class families are being hammered in this economy and are being asked to shoulder more and more of the burden, and that's just not fair, especially as incomes continue to stay flat and the cost of everything else goes up and up. It's not fair for us to ask more and more of the middle class and less of those who have the most ability to contribute. So an important priority for me is going to be restoring balance and fairness to our tax code, and that will allow us to make those important investments that we need to do here in Western Massachusetts to get our economy moving, improving our infrastructure, improving education. The only way that's going to happen is if we restore a sense of fairness and restore a sense of balance to Beacon Hill.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move on to question number 3, which goes to Mr. Harrington first. Mr. Harrington, your district is part urban, mostly suburban, as well as 2 Hampshire County towns, Granby and Belchertown. What do you think is the most critical need facing your district, and how specifically would you plan to address it?
Thank you very much. The most critical need that's facing this district right now is violent crime, drugs, and the guns that are making its way onto the streets. The city of Springfield is the center of our universe in this area, regardless of whether you live in Longmeadow, East Longmeadow, Hampden, or Ludlow, or Belchertown. If the city of Springfield succeeds, the entire region succeeds. So the focus really needs to be put on the public safety aspect and how are we doing in the city of Springfield, and how is that getting into the entire suburban society. I can tell you, as a part-time police officer, just this past Monday when I was working, my first 2 calls that I responded to in the town of Ludlow were heroin related. I was the first police officer on the scene of a man that was not breathing and had just overdosed. That's creeping into every segment of our district right here. And it doesn't matter where you live. In the corner of Belchertown all the way to the corner of Longmeadow, it's a significant issue, and it's tearing good families apart. That's a priority of mine. Public safety right now is the #1 priority, because from there, that has an impact on public education and also on economic development.
Okay, Mr. Saunders, same question.
Thank you, Laura, and it's a good one. I spent 6 years as Senator Kanaris' chief of staff grappling with the different needs that Belchertown has versus Springfield, or Ludlow may have versus Chicopee. And at the root of it all, it's support for local services. If you're talking about public safety, if you're talking about education, the vast majority of those services are provided by our cities and towns, and we need a state senator who's going to stand up and fight for them. Bring dollars back to Western Mass for our core services. And that permeates any city or town, not only in Western Mass, but throughout the Pioneer Valley. It's something that takes a tremendous amount of hard work, and it takes experience. Because again, it's great for us to sit here and say, well, I'm for this, I'm against crime, I'm for education. We all are. But getting those results requires experience. It requires experience in the state Senate to be able to hit the ground running, because the moment our next state senator takes the oath of office, that next day we begin working on the budget.
Mr. Lakiza.
Yeah, well, as I've talked to people in the district, a lot of them still feel fairly safe in the community, but the problem is that they see all the crime in Springfield, and they know that affects the economic conditions of Springfield, which affects all the communities. Now, of course, I see opiate addiction as a major thing, and I've come up with a 5-point plan. And if you will go to my website, tomlacusa.com, you could read a little more about it. But the other thing, besides opiate addiction, is we have we have not enough jobs for young people. We need to get young people, I see them in jail, who have never had work experience. And so I'm trying to look at how we could involve them in their senior year where they could do co-ops or work part-time, get that first job experience. We also need to increase training. And, you know, we have a great vocational school that we could do more training with at night for people. You know, I think that the suburban communities and the urban centers need to work together in terms of understanding how, you know, how to best address the needs for the whole community in the district. Thank you.
Mr. Lesser.
Thank you so much, Laura. You know, it is a big district, very diverse communities, but as you travel through the district, it becomes smaller because you realize that the questions and the concerns people have follow a common theme, and it's two things. One is we've got to get our economy moving. We need to create more middle-class opportunity, and we need some new ideas and some new leadership to actually make that happen. So here's what my proposal is. Investing in the middle class again, creating more opportunity for our middle class, because that was traditionally the bedrock of how growth happened here in Western Massachusetts. And to do that, we need to make investments. We need to invest in our infrastructure. We need more high-tech manufacturing jobs. We need to better connect ourselves to the growing economies in other parts of our state. To do that, we need some new ideas. We need to shake things up a little bit. If we don't, we're going to get the same thing we always get, which is Western Massachusetts being left out and left behind. We can't settle for the old way of doing things.
Mr. Allen, same question.
Thanks, Laura. There's no doubt that we need more resources from Boston. Everybody talks about that. We need, but mostly we need public safety. The thing that makes people comfortable and feeling like their community takes care of them and is watching out for them and makes them comfortable to grow and develop is public safety. On the City Council, I was one of the group that put together the Violence Prevention Task Force again 5 years ago. 4 of us said that group had been dormant for a while. We put it together, now meets monthly, 25 people once a month to discuss violence prevention in Springfield. I went to District Attorney Mark Mastriani with Councilor Mike Fenton. We asked if he could put a gun court together. He did that. Just like Suffolk County has in Boston, we said a gun court would be a good thing here in Western Mass. He did that on a one day a week basis. And if I'm elected state senator, I will convene a public safety summit. We'll have a new governor, we have a new district attorney, we have a new police commissioner in Springfield, and we have police chiefs all over that need to be brought together to have a summit to discuss these issues in all the communities.
Thank you so much. Do appreciate it. Moving on to our next question, which I'll address to Mr. Saunders first. Kids are our future, and many schools in our area are struggling. Where do you stand on universal pre-K? If you support it, how would you pay for it? And what other ideas do you have to improve all of our schools in the area?
So it is one of the most important issues that we deal with. Education and early education becoming more and more important. I support universal pre-K because I've seen the difference it makes for young people. In terms of paying for it, and this is something that happens from time to time in a lot of social issues that we face, it costs a whole lot more to send a kid to jail than it does to send them to school. And for every child who we can get educated pre-K, they are much less likely to end up in our criminal justice system. And when you take even the economics out of it, it's the right thing to do because our communities, our neighborhoods depend on young people being educated, being ready for the workforce, being ready to do the great things that we know that they're capable of doing. And early ed and universal pre-K is a great start to that.
Mr. Lacusa, same question, 1 minute.
Yes, well, I've talked with teachers about this, and they are concerned that young children in kindergarten are under a lot of stress today. You know, their parents are breaking up and getting divorced. There's all sorts of issues that kids at that age have to deal with that kids in the past didn't have to deal with it. Now, with the new curriculum, it does seem like children are going to need a full day, and so I would support universal for kindergarten. But I hope that there are some children who can just still go part-time and half-day and spend time playing and being children, because I think it's an important time. We put so much pressure on people to grow up and to stay in school for a long time. I know I was in school, you know, till I was in my 30s. But the main goal is that people are learning and keeping up with standards. And so, you know, I think if students get a good start, we're all better off in our society. Thank you.
Question goes to you.
Thank you, Laura. You know, I have a 14-month-old daughter. She just started to learn to walk, so we're starting to think about, you know, her options, of course, and the opportunities she'll have for her education, preschool, and those things. And I enthusiastically support and will be a champion both for pre-K and kindergarten as universal. We know that the jobs of the future require a first-rate education for everybody, for all of our children. We also know that it's a lot cheaper to invest in our kids when they're young and through education than through the criminal justice system. And the way I would propose helping to pay for it is by restoring fairness to our tax code. It's not fair that corporations and big businesses pay a lower tax rate than small family-owned businesses and middle-class families. We need to change that and invest that money in our kids, in our preschools, and in our kindergarten programs, because that's what we need to do to get competitive. That's what we need to do to keep our economy growing here in Western Massachusetts, and ultimately that's what we'll need to do to invest in the next generation.
Mr. Allen, same question.
Thanks, Laura. I was there when Springfield received the All-American City Award in Denver 2 years ago for the things we've done for readiness for grade 4 reading proficiency. We have a ways to go, but one of the ways we can go is by applying the early childhood education that we've talked about here, now called Universal Pre-K. Everybody supports it, but here's what I've got. I have a bachelor's degree in early childhood education. That was my degree. My wife has her doctorate in that. I've known about this for 40 years and have worked on it. I was part of the group in Springfield that continually works on it. That's why I went out to Denver when we received that award. But the key here is prioritization. Everything costs money. We need to prioritize our kids' education. It's more important than almost anything else we invest in besides public safety. Only 45% of our kids in Springfield get early childhood ed, a quality early childhood ed. We need to improve that, and we'll find the money through prioritizing other things we spend on.
Mr. Harrington.
I'm a member of the school committee for the town of Ludlow. I've been on for 10 years. And this is something, when I first got elected, I had written a letter to the editor about the importance of early childhood education and preschool, and a full-day preschool. You could go around to any community. Ludlow's outstanding in soccer. One of the reasons they are is because the kids start when they're 2 and 3 years old. Long Meadow, same thing with football and other programs. We put such an emphasis on athletics, which is important. We need to take that same emphasis and put it on education, early education. Statistics show overwhelmingly that the earlier you start something, the more proficient you are. But also at the same time, the earlier start, the more proficient you get in identifying learning behaviors and learning patterns. And if an IEP needs to be put in place, or a 504, you can get those early interventions. By the time they reach first grade and second grade, they can be at grade level. It's the most important thing that we can do for our young people. As far as funding it, the state of Massachusetts right now in Western Mass, we pay 1% on our sales tax, and it goes to the MBTA. Those funds need to stay here in Western Massachusetts, and this is one of those programs that can help pay for it.
Okay, that actually completes our first round of questioning, so you all can take a break while we take a short break. We'll hear their position on another round of very important topics to us here in Western Massachusetts in just a few moments when our special Decision 2014 debate continues. Stay with us, you're watching 22 News.